Okay, the long-awaited P-38 video. Today what I have here is an original Walther P-38, and we'll be comparing it to this Denix P-38. I'll take the camera up close here in a second. We'll do, the old side-by-side of both the pistols, and we'll kind of just work our way down them, and just take a look at both of them and see how they differ from each other. I recall someone in the Kar98K video asking me why I bothered comparing the two, and it applies to this video as well, and I'll just kind of go on that a little bit right now. In the Second World War reenacting community, there is obviously a demand for Second World War firearms. Now, depending on where you live, there's going to be certain laws and certain things that will either make it difficult or completely prevent you from getting original firearms. Where I live, in the state I live, there's no need for any licenses or anything. If it's a private seller, you don't even have to fill out any form of paperwork. You can just give the person money and you're good to go, in my case. But in some states, and this mostly applies for Europe, owning even deactivated firearms can be a lengthy process and an expensive one. So in a way, these Denix replicas serve as a filler item, if you will, whether it be the lack of availability for original firearms or a law that prevents you from owning them. But yeah, let's get to it. For the safety-oriented people in this video, the original P-38 is unloaded and will remain unloaded the entire time. Now that that's out of the way, sorry, just had to clear my bases. Here's the difference in the, I don't know what to call this, I'll just call it the undercarriage between the two pistols. Original on the left, Denix on the right. You can see quite a big difference between the two, and you can kind of feel it when you cycle the Denix. It does not feel as smooth as the original, but again, they don't have to be, and they are not precisely machined parts. And I gotta say, the weight difference between the two, while the Denix isn't perfect, it's a lot better than the Denix Kar98. They're I would say they're fairly close to weight. Of course, the original is going to be heavier, but the Denix P-38 does a far better job of being hefty. And again, showing the two, the original, the slide will lock on an empty magazine, as you can see. On the Denix, this slide does not lock back at all. You can retract the slide, you can move it, but it does not lock back at all. The P-38 was a double-action firearm, so if you have the slide cocked back, you only have to pull the trigger just a little. If you do not cock the slide back, it is a big pull for the trigger. The Denix does not replicate this. It is single action only. You would have to move the slide back every single time. It does not function like that. Starting off with the front of the two pistols here, we have the Denix. The Denix does come with an orange plug inside of the barrel. It can be pretty easily removed with a heat gun, or if you're feeling extra barbaric, some very hot water. I haven't felt the need to do that. You can probably see it kind of poking out a little bit there. I just left it in there how it is, but do with it as you see fit. The front side of the Denix is actually very close to the front side of the original. Just the way they have these replicas built, it's never gonna be 100% accurate to an original, of course. I believe these are still made out of some cast material, where they pour the whatever metal they have into a big cast, and then that's how they make the pistols. It is also just so very slightly thicker, but does this detract from its historical accuracy with the front sight? I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think it's okay. Looking up at the barrels here, you notice this is probably the biggest difference between the two here. The original P-38 has a straight-walled barrel. Of course, there's no angles to it, while this Denix here has this weird kind of conical shape. It does angle down towards the front of the pistol. To my knowledge, there are no P-38s that had a conical shaped barrel. They were all straight like this. We have the left side of both the pistols here displayed And something amazing with the Denix model. Can you see what it is? Ladies and gents, they put markings on this bad son of a bitch. And let me tell you, that is a welcomed addition. On the Car 98 one that I filmed, they had absolutely no markings on that thing at all. And Jesus Christ, would it have killed them to just put K98 or just at least something in there? There was absolutely no markings on that weapon except for the word, I think it was Denix made in Spain on the, I think it was the bayonet lug. But they probably released it at the same time, but they massively stepped their game up with the addition of not only markings, but markings in the correct spot that you see on originals. Now, the only thing that is not right about the markings is the maker's mark. Denix uses NM. NM was not one of the 4 manufacturers for Walther P-38s, but I feel like they did that for a very specific reason. My hunch is that reason being to prevent people from trying to list these as deactivated originals and trying to sell them. Back at the fronts of the 2 pistols, I have the Denix right here, this takedown lever, and then the original takedown lever. The original is a flat piece right here, just with these little finger grooves cut in it. The Denix takedown lever it appears to be slightly extended with a triangular shaped takedown. So when I say that, it is kind of raised a bit here when it should be flat. Moving up top to the extractors, of course we have the extractor on the P-38 right here. You can see it is this entire block piece, the spring behind it. The Denix Replica does not replicate that. They just have a separate piece, a very long piece that is not the same shape as an original extractor. Moving to the safeties, you can see the safeties of the 2. The Denix is always in fire. The safety does not function. Of course, the safety on my original P-38 functions. However, they did something. The paint on my fire and safe selector indicators has been worn off a very long time ago. However, they have decided to paint the F red, and then I assume if this was functionable, they would paint that white as originals were, so that's a good step on them. The grooves in the slide are actually quite accurate for both, I would say. They're just slightly wider on the Denix, but that's perfectly fine. Do I believe it detracts from the overall quality of it? No, I think they actually did a pretty good job at cutting the grooves. Looking at the rear sights, you can see the Denix rear sight is quite different. I'm going to move the pistols up here for you to see. Original on the rear sight appears to have this little dish cut out on the inside. On the Denix, they have opted not to go for the dish, and it's just this flat bar right here. The tops of the 2 pistols, the Denix appears to be wider than the original right here, and the front bridge on both the pistols are different from each other. The original has kind of this flare curve to it, if that kind of makes any sense, while the original appears to just be rounded at the front. Looking at the back of the 2 pistols, we have the original on the left with the round end to the slide, and we have the Denix, which they have gone for a totally different shape, kind of this more angular, slightly squared off while still being round at the same time, if that makes any remote sense. You see the loaded chamber indicator on the original. It is not present on the Denix. And you can see the difference in the 2 hammers here on the edge. The Denix hammer is far bigger than the original on the left. Hopefully here you can better see the difference in the 2 hammers. We have the original right here, the Denix right here, the Denix being thicker and slightly longer than an original. Original P-38s utilized Bakelite grips, while the Denix one appears to be plastic, but I think that's a fine difference. That doesn't really affect its accuracy at all, in my opinion. And the only thing that really does about the grips is that they are not interchangeable, so originals will unfortunately not fit on Denix replicas. It's the way they have it cut on the other side. I can show you. And for the lack of the finger, there's a small little finger groove on the P-38 The original right here, you can see that raised bit, and it is not present on the Denix. The lanyard loops, they decided to cut the lanyard loop on the Denix, but it is just a solid piece of plastic, as you can see. It's not a functional lanyard loop like it is on the original. It is the original, you can see, clean to the other side. And the magazine catches down below. They both do I would say Denix does a good job at replicating it, and I don't see any issues here. The only thing is that it is non-functional, so if you pull down on it, of course, it does not work. There's really not a whole lot to talk about on this side. They do a pretty good job on the finger grooves again. For some reason, the Denix added 3 pins on this side of the slide. Of course, it is not present on the original, or any original for that matter at all. I would say this is the one of the features that kind of detracts from its accuracy, as well as this screw right here. But just something to take note of. And here's the big question: is the Denix P-38 all it's cracked up to be next to the original P-38? While it's not perfect, it certainly has its flaws, like the barrel and that right-hand side of the slide and some other things. With a little bit of work, you can get the thing looking really, really good. I don't want to sound like an elitist, but it's hard to beat originals. So that's that. It's hard to beat. That's not me just being like getting original or nothing, but it's what it is. It's hard to replicate something like that. Price point. I had someone tell me last time that you overpaid for the 98K. What I paid 8 months ago for something is not going to be the same as what you pay 8 months in the future, right now. So take that what it is. At the time, I didn't mind spending what I spent on it. For this, I don't know if I mentioned this yet. I paid $45 plus shipping, or the shipping was included, so in total $45. About a year ago, I saw these going for $60. Right now, they're going for about $80. So do what you will with that information. If you feel like it's worth $80, go ahead. If you feel like it's worth $60, go ahead. Do whatever you want. I'm just here to kind of bring this information to you. I really appreciate you watching. It really does mean a lot. On that last 98K video, it's got quite a fair amount of views, and I really like interacting with the comments. I love answering questions, because there's nothing more frustrating than looking at YouTube videos and having a bunch of questions and no one answers. So I try to do my best to get to everyone. Leave questions down below. I will answer any and all questions about this fucking thing that you have. Whatever you have, I'll be there for you. I'm not as busy as I would like to pretend to be, so it's just the nature of things. More stuff coming out the pipeline soon, hopefully a couple days or so. So I hope you enjoyed watching.